Welcome to the Black Father's Pulse, the podcast where fatherhood meets purpose. I'm Dr. Alvin Thomas, clinical psychologist and professor, here to guide you through the multifaceted journey of Black fatherhood. Please note, the views expressed here are my own and not those of my employer. But get ready to dive into the dynamic world of Black fatherhood, where we celebrate the highs, tackle the lows, and share plenty of laughs along the way. Let's keep the pulse of fatherhood beating strong and vibrant. So talk to us a little bit, and we'll start pulling this together. Why Black patients need Black healthcare providers. I know in clinical psych we say that patients need empathic clinicians, regardless of what the cultural background is. The cultural background is important, but the empathy, the non-judgmental, unconditional, positive regard is what you're looking for. But you're saying here that Black patients need Black healthcare providers specifically in this space.
You used the word earlier. You said empathy, right? It's a part of understanding. If you see two people, right, and you're saying, this is one of the things where we have this thing now in America where they say, make America healthy again. And I always say, I think that's a fantastic idea, but how the hell are you going to do it when I got people that are making, a family of four, making 30 grand a year, and you're telling them to go buy groceries every 2-3 days that have no preservatives in them, right? That means they don't even got them away. That's unrealistic. But you need someone who's come from that environment to give that person some perspective. The other part of it is they say a lot of women and Black people don't feel pain, or they'll mask it by saying we have a higher pain tolerance. Right. We don't have a higher pain tolerance.
No, we don't.
We do not. Like, if someone punches me and it's hard enough, it's going to hurt. So that's ridiculous. I look at, because not even just Black, right? I look at minorities, and I include women, because women, to me, I think even as Black men, we still have a space in United States of America where we are still treated, in my opinion, better than women. And I think people are like, well, that's just not true. I said, no, it's 100% true, because being a man still gives you an advantage that people need to start saying out loud. No, it does give you an advantage, which is why I get so upset when certain people tell me, like, I come from what you come from. I said, no, you don't. There's no way that you come from what I come from, because when I walk in a room, even if you have on flip-flops and shorts, I have to dress like this 7 days a week. Yes. I'm hot. This is exhausting. I have to get a haircut every 5 days. You haven't had a haircut in 3 months. Yep. You and I are not, it's not the same. And I have to be perfect all the time. Yep. You get to mess up. And Pinky Cole, right? Slutty vegan. She filed for bankruptcy. It is, to me, for most people who don't understand business, they're like all up and upright. This is crazy. It's like people do it all the time. We got people in office right now who've done it multiple times, and everyone congratulated him, but now we're telling her this is crazy. It's like, this is the reality of where we live. You have to have people who understand where you come from, who have some perspective on how you live, and the other part is, too, is religious background. A lot of us come from different types of religions. I look at the Muslim faith. And I remember during 9/11, I was young, 5th grade, 6th grade. And I remember people like, if they saw someone they thought was from, that type of background, would walk on the other side of the street. This is a real thing. I remember this, right? And I'm like, these people had nothing to do with this bomb. This is crazy, right? But that's how they view it. And they think like, well, all Black people are bad because the news is bad. But you have to have people who come from that area to give you perspective and to say, I empathize with you. I understand you can't afford this medication. I understand that you need more. And also they need to understand your diet, right? That's so huge. I think too, for a lot of wealthy people, they get to live longer because they can afford to live longer. That's something that people don't want to talk about too. But you got to have doctors that understand, all right, I can give you a diet to go by, but can you need, and they tell you, well, you got to eat more fish. Can you really afford to eat salmon twice a day or every day for 7 days a week? And you make 40 grand a year, you got 3 kids? Probably not. That person's going to have to eat some bologna. They're going to have to eat some fried and processed food. That's how it is. So you got to have people that's why when I say, well, you got to have people who come from what you come from. And to your point, even outside of healthcare, we need even more politicians who come from where we come from. We do, right? And just putting a guy in there because he's black and doesn't understand the plight of the black person, or they forgot it, that doesn't help us either. So, yeah, that's my opinion on why that's so important.
Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. So we started at the very beginning of this talking about your experience and your mom's experience as this was kind of being planted and as it was germinating. So your mom was the reason for Precious Hospice, why it exists. What do you think she would say about what you've built? And you meaning both individually and collectively, because she was part of this building as well.
I've never been asked that. That's interesting. Yeah, and
that's why I'm here to ask questions.
That's so interesting. So I think my mother would be proud. I will start with that. But let me give you an example of how my mother was for people who, when I always say my situation was different. In mid-March of 2022, I go to the house, and I would go by the house at this point pretty much every day. Well, not pretty much every day, for at least 30 minutes to an hour. I actually had my lunches at the house. Her house was not far from the office. And I would go over there, and this particular day, and she's laying in the bed. I took a salad upstairs or something, and she looks back at me, and she's like, "You don't have anything else to do?" And I'm like, "What? Like, what do you mean?" She's like, "You don't have anything else to do." I said, "No, I'm just, same thing every day. Just come here and eat lunch." She said, but why? You can be eating lunch with a social worker. You can be eating lunch with a doctor. If you haven't gotten what you needed in 32 years, you're not going to get it in the next month or two. And that's the type of family I grew up in. So it's like, if you take that at face value, that's going to tell you how she would feel. You've done good, but you can 10X if you get off your lazy butt. That's what she would tell me right now. Or if she were in this, she would say that right now. Yeah. Yeah.
So as much as she would appreciate what you've done, she's looking for the next thing. She's looking for what could you be doing? What else could you be doing?
Man, I remember just growing up and like I was telling you before, I was never really a straight A student. And my mother was a teacher for a while. She was a principal. My grandmother was a principal. My grandparents started a school in Chicago. And I was never really a straight A student. But we always had these standardized tests. And I would get my results back. And my mom would literally sit me down and she would say, "Okay, so if you're reading at this reading level, how are you getting C's in your actual grade level?" And I would just be like, "Yeah, I don't know. Like, school just ain't for me. Like, I have no answer for that." But she was always just like, "You can do better. You can do more." When we play sports, I remember my mom, she was not one of those, "You did good today, son. Great job." Right. And just goes back to, I'm going to say, my mom, my dad divorced. I was maybe 3 or something like that. And I remember having a science fair in maybe 6th or 7th grade. And I got like 3rd place or 4th place or whatever it was. And this was like the first time where she took the medal and threw it in the trash. It was 3rd place because I had a trophy. You got trophies for first to third. She threw it in the trash. She's like, you didn't win. You did not win. And most people nowadays are going to be like, "That's toxic. I can't believe that. That's so toxic." But now people are so comfortable coming in 3rd and 4th place because that's where we are as a society. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, whatever, but I could never come in 3rd place and be happy about it and go home and my mom not like, I would almost get the silent treatment, almost as if I embarrassed her, right? It's like, I think that we need more of that. It's funny. I got a son now. He's 3. He turns 4 April 9th. And I took him to the arcade this weekend. I had never really taken him to the arcade and let him play, like just play on his own. And this time I was like, I'm just going to play. I'm going to pay the money. I'm not going to play with you. I'm going to let you play. He's 3. He doesn't talk a lot, actually, like he's got to have something he really wants to say. Or he just kind of just whatever. And he beat a level on the game. And I was like, huh, okay, you did good. Then he lost. I was like, you got to do better, man. And so I was like, I felt my mom. And she's like, what? I was like, yeah, man. Like, my mom's talking to me to talk to you. Right. And you got to do better. Like, this game is probably for 8-year-olds. I'm like, that's just not good enough. So, but that's what I come from, man. And she would just tell me, like, just keep going. There's another level. But at the same time, I think, too, she would say, outside of just work, one of the things that she didn't get to do because she did work so much was spend an extended period of time, like, with me growing up. My mom was a teacher, so she was the one in her family who didn't have a business. Like, she was actually a teacher. So after being a teacher, she'd have to go tutor to make enough money for me to go to school and all that stuff. So I think she would also tell me, like, spend more time with your family, like, figure that balance out or figure out a way to make it all come together. So every now and then, I do have my son in some meetings, and things like that. And it's like, I don't feel bad about it. It's like, I feel like that's what they did to me. And so now I have this thing in the back of my head where I remember stuff. But specifically to your question, I think she'd be proud, but I still think she would say, you just got to keep going.
Yeah. No, I love the idea of having your son in those spaces because it demystifies that for him. It makes it more normal. Some of what I'm hearing as well, you were talking about how your mom and your dad are from two different sides.
Yeah.
Your dad is the more empathic, kind of vulnerable person. Your mom is the go-getter entrepreneur.
Sure.
And the legacy that they left is Henry Mason Jr., who's the twinning of those two pieces.
I agree. Yep.
And the legacy that you're living to your son is what this looks like next. It just feels really generative and powerful to see what was passed down to you, how you have nurtured it, respected it, fell into it, fought it sometimes, lost to it.
Lost to it, yeah.
And then eventually making it something that is authentic to you.
Yeah.
So it's not your mom, it's not your dad, this is me. I can see my mom, I can see my dad, and I can see the pieces that I want and don't want. And now I get to distill this into the next generation because they're going to have to carry it on. So your son will now have the opportunity of growing up in finance spaces, in entrepreneurial spaces, with the immediate connection to empathy, with the immediate connection to all these other pieces. And then you try to figure out, and what does that look like for the next generation, for his children, for your grandchildren?
100% agree.
Yeah. So, okay, so we've come to the close to the end, the rapid fire wisdom section. So I have 5 questions, and I'm not going to ask you to explain your answers, but I'll give you 5 general questions and ask you for the quick response that comes to your mind.
I don't mind explaining my answers to you, by the way. But that's fine. Yeah, it's whatever. Yeah, I don't mind.
All right. First one. What is the biggest misconception about hospice care?
That you're going to die tomorrow. Yep. President Carter was on it for 2 years. He was not dying tomorrow. He did not die for 2 years. Like, as long as you continue to decline and we can recertify you, so every first 90 days, second 90 days, and then every 60 days thereafter that you're still declining, you can still stay on service.
But President Carter had like boku bucks.
But he didn't. But because hospice is paid for out of insurance, it was just another added service that he had.
So I've heard of, I don't know, wow, God, this is supposed to be rapid fire.
No, you got time.
So I've heard people talk about how when their parents go into hospice, any equity or value in the family home gets picked up or gets absorbed by hospice care, so that by the time the parent passes, the house is almost owned by the hospice company. Is that a reality that people are dealing with?
It's a myth. That is a nursing home program. So and what happens is when you go into the nursing home and you say that you have Medicaid and you for lack of a better word, don't tell the truth completely on that Medicaid form, they have a look back period. So that look back period is basically, well, I sold all my assets,
Right.
a year ago. Wait, no, we got this look back period can be 5 years or whatever, right? And so they say, well, now because you did not tell us the truth, you owe us for every month your mom or dad was in his nursing home, you owe us the $4,500 that we paid to the nursing home.
Ooh,
So
wow.
for a lot of people, that can end up being everything that was left to you.
Right.
And you just give me, it's a problem. But that has nothing to do with hospice. That it translates to hospice because people felt that when they were in a nursing home, but the money was taken by the nursing home. The hospice, we don't have access to that.
Okay, excellent. One question that every Black man should ask his parents this week about their end of life wishes.
They need to ask them specifically. Damn, I've never. It's so crazy.
I ask the hard questions.
You do, but it's a question that I never got to ask my dad because he died so quickly. What is it that you want me to do to make you proud? And the reason why I say that is because end of life is what it is, right? Or a lot of, and I'm gonna use Black men, we do not take enough time and tell our kids we're proud of them. You've done a great job. I appreciate who you become. And I think so often a lot of us are yearning for that moment to hear, son, I'm proud of you, right? And so just, for me, my dad, probably up until the last month before he died was the first time he started saying, I'm proud of you, right? I didn't, the DNR stuff, if that's where you're going with that or all that whatever,
Right.
they'll get to that. But the reality is like dad and the dads need to just tell them, I am proud of you. That was not your question, but I'm telling you, if dads would do that, it would go so much further and so many people would be happier and the boys would not feel like they did not do enough or they were lesser than as they go on through life.
Right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Complete the sentence. Being a male caregiver means
being willing to give up everything that you're doing to do what needs to be done at that place,
okay.
that house, that assisted living for that person. And you said I don't have to explain, but I will because we look at women caregivers and forget when women become caregivers, a lot of time they give up their careers.
Yeah.
They give up so much to come home and take care of them. My mother, for example, gave up everything she was doing to take us back to Chicago to take care of her mother who was passing away. Her career trajectory completely cut short because of this. Now you got a 10-year block of her just taking care of her mom.
Right.
And like you said before, I think if men don't start embracing the reality now, particularly African-American men, they're going to get a culture shock in about 10 years that, we have a friend that, I have a lot of friends that committed suicide and a lot of it is due to like money constraints or feeling like they can't provide. Yeah, that'd be my answer. But you got to be willing to give up everything to do it. And other cultures do it. Other cultures do it, if we're being honest, though, right? We just don't. I don't know what they do in the Caribbean, but it's like, man, like I made a post last week that said, I've never seen a world where a mother can raise 6 kids, but 6 kids can't raise one mother, can't help take care of one mother. That's crazy. That's where we are right now.
Yep.
They're not willing to give up.
Sadly, that's where the Caribbean is heading. We accept lots of things from American culture and we replace it with what we have as if what we have was not doing an excellent job.
Excellent job.
And then we look back and say, oh my God, why have we changed so much? Because we supplanted our culture. We supplanted the things that made us a strong community, that made us less individualistic, more collectivistic. That's why we're seeing murders, because we're focused on ourselves and not on each other, not on the community.
Yeah, that would be that. But you gotta sacrifice. You gotta give up everything to be there and be present and to your words you've used a lot empathetic to what's going on.
What's one thing you wish that you had known before becoming your mother's caregiver?
Man, normally people just ask me about business. Like they don't really. um, that was the first time up close where I saw how impactful chemotherapy can be, good or bad, right? I've heard stories, but again, I didn't have a hospice then. I wasn't that close to healthcare. And I did not know how painful it could be, and not even just physically painful. I think it stripped her of some of her pride, just how she looked at herself, how she felt every day. I think it took in 2014, 2013. I don't think she ever became the same person again after that. I think most people, if they look back at it, I don't think she did. I think I wish I had known what it does to you, and I wish we could have looked at all the options versus the only option the doctor gave us.
And finish this sentence. Black men need to stop being ashamed of this when it comes to end-of-life conversations.
Black men need to stop being ashamed of this when it comes to end-of-life conversations. Man, a couple of things. A lot of times they're ashamed of how much money they haven't amassed. They are ashamed of feeling like they let their kids down for not, it's not a word, but it's a space where a lot of them feel like they did not accomplish what they thought they could accomplish. I've never been asked that before. But that's the biggest thing that I see. A lot of them are like, I did not leave my kids anything. I did not do anything. And it's like, well, you have that conversation towards end of life, right? But had you started having that conversation to our point previously with your kid at 16, one, it puts it in your kid's brain, but also puts it in your brain. So if you had a kid at, let's just say 30, you're 46. So I am going to die at some point. Maybe I should start putting up something, or can I afford to put $300 a month into a life insurance policy? Like that is also the great net worth equalizer is life insurance policies. No one listens to me when I say these things until they pass away. But I can tell you, as someone who works in hospice, yeah, that is the great net worth equalizer is life insurance.
Life insurance.
So 100%.
Make sure you have life insurance. Even if you have a 401k and Medicaid and everything else, make sure you have life insurance.
Yeah, and the other thing with life insurance is how it's taxed, right? Like, I'm not a financial advisor, but being able to transfer that amount of wealth for, like, even if it's $1 million or even if it's $500,000, right? If you can pay that, depending on how old you are, it might be $300 a month.
Right.
It's $300 you don't see that comes out immediately. So you're never having to be forced to live on that $3,600 a year. That's what it is, $3,600 a year, possibly for you to get $500,000, depending on your age and what you got going on. But if you get it early enough, man, like, your kids are set. Like, your kids are set. Whatever debt you left is set. If you didn't get insurance to pay off your house when you die, now most likely you can pay that off too. And so now they got a free and clear house. They got some cash in the bank. If they want to start a business, they can. If they want to flip your house, they can. Like, you just give them a major starting point.
Yeah.
So if I do it and my son does it and his son does it, I'm not saying you'll ever be the Rockefellers or anything,
Right.
but you give yourself a good situation, a good scenario. You asked some really profound. I'm only used to talking about business stuff. Like, I'm not used to how I feel about things. That's interesting. I mean, no one ever like really No one comes up to me and says, how do you feel about your mom? Like, how was it? Like, no one says that. They always say, well, how much does it cost to start this? Or like, what, like how much like, those are the questions. It's like, that's interesting. It's like, yeah, it's like almost you forget you're a person for a while. Like that would,
to me, I mean, that's interesting how much it costs to start, what strategies you use, but that's easy to get to.
yeah.
That's easy to come by. That can almost become a scaffold. The thing that's fleeting is the human breath. And that is exactly what hospice is about. It's not about the structure or the healthcare. It's about the dignity of the individual. It's about how we take care of this soul before it separates from this earth and the people who are connected to it. How do we usher this person out of this physical terrestrial existence? And to me, that's the interesting part of life. It's in the living, it's in the feeling, it's in the existing, it's in the experiencing, it's in the emotion, whatever that emotion looks like. It's in the conversations. The money, the house, the car, the structure, the government, all of that is meant to make the breath as meaningful as possible for as long as we have it.
We need to get that so we can put it on like a radio ad. That was, it was profound. I felt it. And I feel like, to your point, everyone like looks at hospice as like, well, how much time they got? And it's like, no, the point is like, what type of quality do they have? Right? Like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? So that's so interesting. I do have a question for you though, right?
Sure.
As a clinical psychologist, if you will, right? Someone who, and I've known you for a while. One of the things that we kind of touched on, and then we're talking about Black fathers specifically, the idea of overprotecting young men, right? And people are always asking me, do I see, or what do I see in the future? And I always say, I don't see a lot of men being entrepreneurs in the future. I don't see a lot of men becoming doctors or PhDs in the future, because I think that they're so protected that they're going to be afraid to take risk. They're going to be afraid to fail. What are your thoughts on that?
I think my instinctive thought is that we don't protect young Black men. We think we protect them.
Mm-hmm.
We shelter them rather than protecting them.
That's the word.
Protecting means being a safe space for your child to land on. The world is beautiful. The world is full of joy. The world is full of color and brightness and love and mystery and all of these wonderful things. But the world is also a dark, painful, unfeeling, uncaring, brutal space. The world sits at that duality. And we send our young boys into the world often unprepared to deal with those challenges.
Yeah.
And even worse so when they return with the assaults that the world would have had on them, the scars or the injuries that the world would have on them, they have no space to explore it. They have no space to heal from it. They have nobody to tell about it. I think it's Mary Ainsworth. But this woman came up with this idea of the strange situation. And the idea is a parent walks into a room with a child. Room is primarily empty, except for a chair or two chairs and maybe a toy in one corner of the room. And almost instinctively, and you can think about your son when he was, probably still now, when your son walks into a new space, the first thing they do is look around and scope the space. And as they're looking around, they keep looking back to you, as if to say, is this safe enough for me to go out into it? And if they recognize that you look unbothered, that you look comfortable, then they start venturing into that space, into that room. And they will pick up something and they will play with it and then bring it to you, as if to say, I found this in this new space. What do you make of it? Or is it safe? Can I continue with it? And the parent, a well-positioned parent would look at, oh, wow, you found a pencil or you found a crayon or what's that you found? And what you're doing is you're giving the child vocabulary for the thing that they've discovered. What can you do with it? Oh, it writes? What can you write with it? You're exploring the thing with the child. And then the child gives up on that after a minute or so and goes off and finds something different and brings it back to you. And they keep doing it back and forth and back and forth. That does not end when your child turns 4 years old. That continues all the way to your child's teenage years. So your 5-year-old goes to school and they come back. You need to know what your child's experiences were. Your 15-year-old goes to school and there should be that sense of comfort that home is safe, that home is meant for me, that home is where I'm supported. Whether I am right or wrong, home is a place where I feel comfortable being my full self. So I can come home and say, I had a rotten day today. Everybody was picking on me or for whatever reason. And I get unconditional positive regard to share that. And then after it is shared and I've dealt with the emotions that come with that, then we can work on building skills around problem solving. But often we send our boys out into the community without any of the skills. We call it premature debut in the environment. So an 8-year-old boy can walk down to the park or the basketball court by himself, but an 8-year-old girl will not be allowed. So we keep our daughters home and we give them the skills and we tell them how to navigate the environment. And our sons, we tell them, don't be no punk. Be a man. Be strong. Don't cry. You can handle it. You let them do that to you. You let them do this to you. And what did you say when they told you? Versus before we had that conversation, we need to talk about how that made you feel. We need to talk about what to do when that happens again, because it's going to happen again. And then we're suddenly surprised when they're 15 and they have lives that look very different from the lives they live at home. They keep things from us because we were never the soft spot for our children to land on. So as far as protected, we're not protecting our children, our sons specifically. We're leaving them out there to the wolves and hoping that they'll be fine. Henry, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast and sharing just what were just really excellent pieces, nuggets of wisdom, and of course, sharing the vulnerability and intimacy of your own personal story and your family story. Hospice care is not giving up. Hospice care is not surrendering. Hospice is the courage to care, the strength to be vulnerable, the legacy of promises. These conversations save lives and honor legacies. Have them before you need them. Subscribe, rate, share this podcast, especially with those who are caregivers in your life.
You've been listening to the Black Father's Pulse. I'm your host, Dr. Alvin Thomas. I'm a clinical psychologist, researcher, and director of the TriLab at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Views shared on this podcast are mine or that of my guest and are not associated with the university. Original music for our series was composed and performed by Micaiah De Silva, artwork by Isabella Acra. The podcast is produced by me and is supported by the kind contributions of you, the public, and advertisers. Follow me on Twitter at Dr_AT758, that's Dr_AT758, or the Black Father's Pulse podcast on Instagram and YouTube. Subscribe to the Black Father's Pulse podcast wherever you do your podcast listening, and don't forget to share and leave us a positive review.